I am Roberto Vittori of the STS-134 crew, and you are watching NASA TV.
Hey, Shannon, good morning to you all down in Houston and across the planet. Just wanted to say thanks for the song. That was by the band Rush, and my friends Ken Fisher and Greg Schertz sent that up for me. And Rush was really inspired by the launch of STS-1, so they included that in their music, and it was really inspirational for them for the whole album. But what was really cool about it is that space shuttle program has really inspired everybody across our planet for such a long time. So this song was a tribute to the space shuttle program, and so we'd like to say good morning. And Houston, Endeavour on air to ground 2. Looks like we've got our plan together, and we're going to start with the PDRS dock late inspection.
Fox, we copy. We're ready.
Shuttle pilot Greg Johnson calling down that the crew is ready to get started with the docked late inspection procedure a little bit early. It was scheduled in the crew's timeline to start just before 10 p.m. Central Time, but the crew got through some post-sleep activities early and wanted to go ahead and get into the dock late inspection work, which will take a little more than 5 hours or so. At least that's what's timelined. On the end of the shuttle's robot arm is the orbiter boom sensor system, ready to perform its last major task as a member of the Space Shuttle STS-134 mission. It will be delivered over to the International Space Station and become a permanent component of the ISS during the fourth of the spacewalks, the fourth and final spacewalk planned during Endeavour's mission.
So, obviously, first question, how is everything going out there?
Things are going really well. We finished our third spacewalk yesterday. We've got another one tomorrow. We're doing a inspection of Space Shuttle Endeavour right now to see if it possibly sustained any damage while it was here, which is a standard procedure we always do. And today's flight day 11, and we've got about 6 more days to go.
What has been the most challenging part for you so far?
You know, these space shuttle flights to the International Space Station are incredibly challenging, all of it. Very compressed timelines and a lot of activities for a lot of different people, a lot of robotic arm operations. And then on top of it, we have to send crew members outside to do work on the outside of the space station. The day we installed the alpha magnetic spectrometer was a highlight. It's the most expensive single piece of the space station, so you want to be careful with that. So it's, you know, the whole thing is really challenging, but, you know, the spacewalks are pretty high risk, so we take extra care there.
You know, of course, people are constantly concerned about Gabby. People are asking, has it been hard to be away from her for so long, and what kind of communication have you had with her?
Yeah, it's very hard to be away from her. Fortunately, we do, once I dock to the space station, we have a phone on board. It's an internet phone, so the connection isn't always available. But since flight day 5, I've spoken to her every single day. It's my night right before I go to bed, and it's her morning. And she sounds really good, very upbeat. She had her surgery about, well, I guess now it must be about a week ago, 8 days ago, and she's doing really, really well. But it is difficult.
You know, over the past few months, so many terrible things have happened, so many encouraging things have happened. What sort of perspective do you take on all of this from the very unbelievably big picture perspective you can have where you are right now?
Yeah, I was thinking about that just the other night, and I sent an email to some folks, you know, that are close to me about, you know, how beautiful the Earth is from orbit. And you look down, and it looks like an incredibly peaceful place, clouds and blue ocean. And you know, if you were, you know, just showed up at this planet in orbit looking down on it, you wouldn't realize, you know, some of the violence that we have. I mean, it's just not a, I mean, it's a beautiful planet, but there are really terrible things that happen. And the Pope actually asked a question about this the other day when we were speaking to him, is, you know, what can science do to help with some of the violence that we experience on Earth? And, you know, my answer to that is, you know, there are technical things that we learn here up in space that can be used to make things better for people. And when things are better for them, they're less likely to be in conflict.
You know, there was so much excitement about space years ago, and there was that first sight of the entire Earth from the early Apollos as they orbited the moon. How do you recapture that old excitement now as you move forward?
You know, it's a difficult thing to do. You know, when we first went to the moon, obviously it was incredibly exciting to have people, have Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin, you know, walk on the moon for the first time, and, you know, have all those Apollo crews visit the moon and those incredible images. You know, today we fly, this is the 134th flight of the space shuttle, so we do this a lot more routinely. These flights, I think, are equally complex. Maybe in some ways they're more difficult to do. We do very complex spacewalks, but we do it a lot, and with the exception of a couple accidents, we've been really, really successful at it. So it's difficult to get the public, you know, to notice. And obviously, you know, today with the internet and just the amount of stuff available out there to pay attention to, well, you know, we understand why, you know, NASA is not always in the headlines. But, you know, we go about our business and we think we provide a great service to the American people, and we're, you know, I really believe we're a great investment. I think the American people get a lot in return for what they invest in NASA.
Are you going to miss seeing the capabilities of a spacecraft like the shuttle, the follow-on vehicles? And I'm certainly interested if you think you'll see yourself flying one of those one day. The follow-on vehicles will do some things better, but not some of the things the shuttle can do.
The Russian commander of the space station, who just left a few days ago, Dima, who's a good friend of mine, he was sitting on the flight deck or floating on the flight deck of Endeavour with me, and he said, you know, this is such an incredible ship. You know, it's really sorry that, you know, that we're retiring them. And what I said to Dima is, I'm like, you're right. I mean, there is nothing like the space shuttle. It can do incredible things. It's got enormous capability with robotics and spacewalks and the number of people it can carry and the mass it can carry to orbit and what it can return. But, you know, we made a decision a number of years ago that we wanted a vehicle where we could go and do exploration, maybe go back to the moon, go on to Mars. Also a vehicle that was safer. We've had 2 accidents with the space shuttle. So we're in the process of doing that. And part of that process is to retire the 3 space shuttles. And that's a decision that NASA made, supported by the astronaut office. And so I am sad to see the 3 space shuttles, you know, be rolled into a museum here shortly. I think it's a necessary step so we can go on and do some more exciting things.
Endeavour Houston, air to ground 2 for survey.
So Megan, go ahead for survey. We see ourselves complete with step 8, and I think we're done.
Taz, we agree. Great job. We are getting a message on board that will indicate the playback times for you.
We are happy that all of the inspection for dock light inspection is complete, and it's been a pleasure working with you.
Hey, you guys have done a great job, and you're well ahead of the timeline, as you know.
For Mike Fink, you'll soon hold the record for the most time in space by a U.S. astronaut, but by the all-time list, you'll still rank, I believe, 20th behind 19 Russian cosmonauts. As our longest traveled space explorer and an experienced space station crew member, do you feel there's a value to extending the length of individual crew members' ISS expeditions for going in preparation for going further out into the solar system?
That's a great question. It's certainly an honor to get a chance to fly up in space, and especially for long periods of time. And I think any records that are happening now, even the greatest on the Russian side of 804 days, that's all going to be long forgotten when humans really start to explore the solar system, especially with some of the new vehicles that NASA's going to come up with. So it's I think in preparation for that, 6 months at a time, it seems to be what seems to be working now for the space station. Anything longer than that's going to be a little bit tougher, but I think we can live up here relatively indefinitely. A year mission's not out of the question aboard the space station. It'd be a lot more interesting to spend a year going to Mars, however.
This is Gerhard Daum with the German Space Agency and Space Export Association. Question for Box. You are the prime operator of the SMRMS. What was your most challenging robotics task, and what was it like working at the robotics station in the cupola with that view to Earth?
Well, Gerhard, I'll tell you what. The cupola was everything that I had heard from other people times 10. It's a magnificent view. You have a view of literally half of the space station operating from the cupola. Some of the robotic ops that we did on EVA-2 didn't even need any cameras. You could just look out the window. A lot of the robotic ops that we're doing on this mission are located on the other side of the station. For example, when we installed AMS and ELC-3, so the advantage of the cupola wasn't apparent as far as looking out the window, but just as a place to be, as a place to operate the robotic arm, it was a wonderful, and it is a wonderful, wonderful place to be.
Thank you. Question for the spacewalkers Drew and Mike. For Drew, you performed 3 EVAs, kind of a surgery, on the final Hubble servicing mission, and 3 on this ISS mission. What are the major differences executing the EVAs on Hubble and the station, and what were the most difficult and most exciting moments?
Well, Gerhard, thanks. That's a good question and a tough one to answer. I can tell you that each of the EVAs were challenging, and I can tell you that now after 3 days of being outside, I'm pretty worn out, and my hands are very tired as well, and I don't know that I'd be ready to go out tomorrow like Mike and Greg are going to. But the differences, of course, are that Hubble is very close to our airlock, and we don't have to travel far into the payload bay to reach it and perform the tasks. And of course, with Space Station, we traverse over long distances, and especially in the dark, it's very easy to get a little bit disoriented and sometimes lost. And I know I went the wrong way a few times, at least briefly, trying to understand really where I was headed. So, but the work is challenging. Fortunately, the space station was built to be serviced by astronauts. Hubble was not built really that way, although we have performed many servicing missions to it. So the tasks are just as challenging. I worked just as hard. In fact, I think harder with all the activities we had, and we're just happy to be done with 3 successful spacewalks and looking forward to a 4th.
And for Mike, you performed 6 EVAs in the Russian Orlan spacesuit during Expedition 9 and 18. On this mission, you executed 2 of your 3 planned EVAs in the US EMU spacesuit. What are the advantage and disadvantage of each type of spacesuit, and are the tasks easier to execute in either the Russian or the US suit?
That's a great question. I've had the privilege of being in the Russian suit, and I like it very much. The Orlan is pressurized to about 6 pounds per square inch, or 0.4 atmospheres. It's a very serviceable suit, and we don't have to spend a long time getting ready. The pre-breathe time is relatively short. And the American suit is more mobile because it runs at a lower pressure, but that means we have a long pre-breathe time, and it takes a longer time to get ready. However, both suits are great for what they do. It's great to go out in space and go on a spacewalk, but I think every spacewalk that I've been on is really tough. Spacewalks are not easy at all.
Hi, it's Bill Harwood with CBS News, and Greg, you can keep the mic. I'll ask you this question. We were talking the other day about how it's been 27 years since the space station program was approved, and I remember talking to Bill Shepard in the early 90s about the wall of EVA and all the concern about doing this, and you guys are getting ready to do the last shuttle EVA in all that time as assembly comes down. Can somebody I don't know, reflect on how far NASA has come in developing this EVA capability that you've used to build the station.
Well, that's a good point that you've made, and certainly being able to perform spacewalks is critical to the life of the space station, and we've seen that on every shuttle mission and many of the space station expeditions that have been here, the requirement to perform EVAs. If we didn't have that capability, the station certainly would not be able to last as long as we plan for it to last. And also, I think that the capability to do spacewalks has something to do with certification longer than what original plans are. So to be able to maintain that, that's just a part of life, to work and live in space. We will always have to have the ability to go out and put our hands onto objects, and we've certainly seen that, and I can reflect back on the Hubble Space Telescope. It would never have lasted as long as it has, nor would it have will it last into the future without the assistance of humans in the loop with tools in their hands going out to perform the work, because number one, many of those tasks are critical and have to be performed in very short order, and we just don't have the capability right now with robotics or other devices, any other capability to get out there and get the work done. So the spacewalking is critical. The ability to get outside and do the work is important. And on the last EVA, for EVA 3, of course, we tested out a new protocol, pre-breathe protocol, which allows us to have sort of a normal morning, spend less time on oxygen masks, and be able to get outside without the additional pre-planning that we've had in the past that required camping out in the airlock overnight at a reduced pressure. So the capabilities are important for the longevity of space station, and folks back at the centers on Earth have been working to advance those capabilities and expedite our capability to get outside and do the work that we need to do when it's required.
Let me ask Mike Fink a related question, if I could. On Friday, you guys are going to go over 1,000 hours in EVA time during assembly of ISS, or more than 40 days, which is either an incredible milestone, or maybe it's just a trivial milestone. I don't know. How do you look at that, 1,000 hours of EVA time? Thanks.
Yeah, 1,000 hours, that's pretty impressive. In fact, we had concerns when we were first designing the space station of how much time EVA, zero-G EVA time it would take. Up at that point, we weren't really as experienced with EVA. The shuttle program paved the way with some of the earlier EVAs, getting our extravehicular mobility unit, EMU, up and running, and then getting it to really shine. Some of the tools and techniques that came along for space station building are very helpful. The stints that we did at Hubble Space Telescope, we still use some of those tools to this day for the space station. So we've really come a long way with spacewalking. We've learned a lot from our Russian partners, and they've learned a lot from us. And the new suits that we have and their capabilities allow us to do longer spacewalks. I don't think anybody 10, 20, 30 years ago would imagine that we would have so many 8-hour spacewalks, even like the one we had just this week.
It's Chris Baltimore with Reuters. Question for Commander Kelly, or perhaps for Mike Guerin. Springboarding off of Mark Crow's question about the station and the retirement of the shuttle fleet. Retirement of fleet means that we're losing quite a bit of capability, and just wondering what your assessment is in terms of whether the space shuttle is ready to make this transition, and if there are concerns about the kinds of capabilities that won't be in the toolbox in future years.
Well, I think you mean the retirement of the space shuttle and a transition to the museum. If that's what you're referring to, it'll be a little bit more difficult. ATV, Progress, HTV provides a certain upmass capability. It's not what the space shuttle can do. It can't bring anything home that you can reuse. So it'll be a challenge. It'll be a logistical challenge for the folks that manage the space station program, but they've planned ahead, and we'll be able to handle it. And we're going to have a very capable space station, and the crews on board are going to be able to contribute in a robust science program. So it's planned to work out, and I think it will.
Todd Halverson of Florida Today for, I don't know, one of the American guys. You guys are on the cusp of being able to declare victory, assembly complete on the USOS, and I'm wondering if you could rate this accomplishment and where it stands in the history of human engineering achievements.
Yes, you're absolutely right. We have one more EVA that's going to leave the boom from the shuttle behind that can be used for helping us reach different parts of the space station robotically if needed later. We've already installed a pallet of external spare equipment, but the part that we've added that was most significant on our mission was the alpha magnetic spectrometer, and this is an amazing scientific instrument that really has a possibility of making some untold discoveries about the nature of our universe. So this is a really fascinating and a really big contribution, I think, to the space station. But the space station itself, it's unbelievable. It is 1 million pounds of modules and hardware and scientific equipment and laboratories and we've had 12 people up here until the last Soyuz crew just left, and it's an amazing, busy place with around the world operations, control centers, and I think the things that are going to be done up here over the next several years are really going to push us far into the future. It's really our doorstep to the future and to exploring the rest of the solar system and beyond. So I think it's something we really should be proud of. Not just Americans at all, but Americans and Russians and all of Europe and Canada and all our international partners. It's really an amazing Japan, a really amazing thing we've done together, and it's going to be a terrific next decade, I think, all working together toward the future.
Thanks very much for that. I wanted to ask Mark Kelly about the upcoming atmospheric reentry and landing. This is going to be a night landing, and I think it might be your first night landing, and I'm wondering what you think the challenges are going to be, and if you could kind of give us an idea of what do you think it'll be like. Thanks.
Well, the biggest challenge is it's going to be dark. That's, night landings, the fact that you don't have a horizon out the window could be a little bit more of a challenge, but these are mostly instrument approaches. I mean, they really are. I mean, we fly the equivalent of what an ILS would be in an airplane. It's a much steeper glide slope, about 20 degrees instead of about 2 or 3 degrees. But we fly the approach exactly the same. We have some very bright lights on the runway, so once you get down below about 100 or 50 feet, it's almost like daytime there when you get very close to the ground. I've got a lot of night landings, over, I think, about 100 on an aircraft carrier. Those are challenging, too, so I've kind of been in this position before. I'm ready for it and look forward to it.